Hey, seventh graders, what's up? Today we're going to be learning about the North and South, basically comparing and contrasting them. We should be finished with our lesson over the Bill of Rights, and our comic strip should be done. So we're going to be working on page 8 in your notebook. Should be folded out like this because, like I said, I changed the notes because I didn't like those ones. The notes are pretty self-explanatory, so you should just be able to fill out the note chart while you're going through everything. So the difference between the North and the South, the map here basically shows everything that you really need to know about the North and the South and how they're split. It's divided between free states and slave states. This is a map of the whole United States during this time that we're learning about right now. Basically all this area here, down through here, including Oklahoma, didn't really exist. And we're going to learn about how those states came into being as well later on. So, information about the North. Okay. First thing we're going to look at is the climate and geography of the North. To understand the climate and geography of the North helps you understand the North's economy. Same thing with the South. The North has warm, humid summers and cold and snowy winters. Something we don't get down here at all. We get the warm. We don't get the humidity that much except during monsoon time. We've had a little bit of it this summer, but we don't really get the cold, snowy winters here. In the North, they have a short growing season, plus the cold made farming really difficult up there. That being said, they still produced more food than the South by almost double. The North has clear and fast rivers. This allowed them to move products from city to city quickly. It also allowed them to build factories and use hydroelectric power to power factories. The North also had lots of coastline that were full of bays, so they were able to basically create their navy and have a strong navy. Most of the cities in the North developed near rivers and bays because of the hydroelectric power they could generate from the water. Cities in the North developed as trading centers, so people came there to basically sell and buy goods. And people began to use water power to run factories in the North. Population. Okay, between the 1800 and 1860, the North had a huge population increase. Most of that came through immigration. People basically leaving one country and coming to the United States. There were Irish, German, and other Europeans that mostly settled in the North. A lot of them are called old immigrants, basically Europeans that were from Western Europe. And we'll learn more about that a couple months from now when we talk about immigration in the country. Cities. Cities developed in the North as centers of trade, so people would go to the cities to buy and sell goods, or they'd manufacture goods, sell them out, things like that. Factories were set up making textiles. Textiles is a key word that we'll use throughout. Basically, textiles are any type of cloth goods that are made. So clothing is one of the main ones. That would be a textile industry. Carpet, bed sheets, towels, all that stuff would be kind of examples of textiles. The increase in factory work brought more people to live in the cities because they had jobs. Okay? So people left farms and moved to the cities for the factory work. Cities were crowded and dirty. And for the first time, public education began in cities. So just like you guys are going to school today, back in the 1800s, kids started to go to school for the first time. Cities became important centers of art, culture, and education. Cities also had newspapers that lots of people read. The economy of the North was solely based on manufacturing, so factory work. Culture in the North was determined by life in the cities. Both religion and education were organized. There were grammar, which are elementary schools and churches in most towns in the North. Very few boys and almost no girls went on to the secondary school. And college was reserved for only those that were wealthy. So that basically set up the North's culture was a little bit more educated than the South's culture. So they had a little bit they kind of felt they were better than the South. Transportation in the North. Transportation consisted of canals. Okay, we have canals around here, but you can't really move goods on them or anything. They were just made to move water over land. The biggest canal at the time was the Erie Canal, which is up north. And railroads. Railroads were the key to the North. Most of the railroads in our country were in the North. There was 30,000 miles of track by 1850, and I believe it's something like 27,000 miles of that was in the North. Canals and railroads allowed northern businesses to grow because they could transport their goods quicker and faster. Unlike the South basically had to rely upon horses and wagons, very few railroads, and they had a hard time shipping as well. So basically that sums up everything with the North. We covered their transportation, their population, their culture, their climate, their geography, their cities, and their economy. So on page 8, I'd just go back and basically fill in the bullet points for page 8 on your note sheet. Now we're going to take a look at the South. Okay, so this is going to be a new section. This is going to be page 10. The notes are the same, but it says the South at the top for you. So the South, climate and geography of the South. We got warm and sunny with long summers, mild winters, and lots of rain in the South. This makes an ideal climate for agriculture. So they had lots of farms. Basically, they're called plantations. And there was fertile soil there that was ideal for growing crops. The population in the South was made up of Europeans, mostly from England and Scotland, and enslaved African Americans. 1/3 of the population of the South were slaves. And most Southerners lived on small farms. Only about 1/4 of farmers in the South owned slaves. So that means 3/4 of the farmers were a minority in the South. They were a very small amount. The large farms, called plantations, were owned by the wealthy few, and they owned most of the slaves in the South. Cities in the South. Most Southerners lived on farms or plantations. There were very few large cities in the South. The main one was probably Richmond and Atlanta. Those were the two biggest cities in the South, and New Orleans. Plantations were self-sufficient and became like small towns. The economy of the South. The economy was based on one thing in the South. It starts with a C, and that is cotton. Okay, so agriculture was the main source, with cotton being the focus of it as the years progressed. Tobacco, rice, sugarcane, and indigo. Indigo is what they dye blue jeans out of. Were sold as cash crops in the South. And cotton became the most important crop after an inventor named Eli Whitney created the cotton gin. The cotton gin was a tool they could use to separate the seeds from the cotton. I don't know if any of you guys ever picked cotton, but it's really tough to get the seeds out of it. Because of the cotton gin, they were able to produce more cotton. And since they were able to produce more cotton, they needed more slaves to be able to pick that cotton. So Eli Whitney's cotton gin allowed slavery to expand in the South. And slavery became essential to the South's economy as well. Culture. The upper class in the South was plantation owners and their families. Only children of plantation owners received any education. Most males were sent to basically a military type of college where they got a military education. Small farmers had little or no education. They just basically went and worked in the fields. The culture of the South revolved around plantation life. So everything that Southerners did was based on plantations. Transportation was way weaker than the North. The South was dependent on the steamship and basically the Mississippi River. Railroads existed, but they had far less than in the North. Like I said, they had like 3,000 miles of railroad track in the South, so not a whole lot. Okay, so that basically compares the two, and you can see there's stark differences, which are going to lead to heated differences between the North and the South. The North is going to look at themselves as being superior to the South because of their technology, their manufacturing, but they're still relying on the South. Because of the textile industry, the North is going to need the South's cotton. Likewise, the South feels they're better than the North. They like their way of life. They don't think there's anything wrong with it. But they also need the North because they need the North's textile factories to ship their cotton to. So those are some of the main differences between the Northern and Southern economies, cultures, transportation, everything. It kind of sums it all up for once for you. So go ahead and complete your notes on page 10 over the South. And then on class, we'll talk about and compare the two. And then we will make a map of the North and the South in class. I hope you guys have a good day. If you have any questions, shoot me an email on the contact me or write them down and ask them in class. Talk to you guys later.